Hey guys, I decided I wanted to make a video detailing how to do some of the most popular Hellcat mods. Even though they're very popular modifications, I found it was pretty hard to find some of the smaller details, some of the torque specs and little bits of information. Thought, hey, why not just go ahead and do a video? Now this video has got 3 parts. In the first part, I'll detail how to do the Metco pulley hub installation. The second part is going to be where we go ahead and upgrade to Demon injectors, 180-degree thermostat. You should also know that we went ahead and changed out the ECM, because after a certain year you have to use an unlocked computer to be able to do any tuning. But that was fairly straightforward. I did not include that in the video. And then the third part didn't really add any power, but it's such a popular modification, I figured that it would be useful to a lot of people out there looking to get a little more exhaust note out of their Hellcat. So I detailed how to straight pipe it, some useful measurements on pipes and whatnot. So hope you enjoy.
Hey guys, today we're going to be working on a 15 Hellcat. Customer wants to install a smaller pulley, drive pulley on the Supercharger and straight pipe the exhaust. So I'm going to detail exactly how we're going to do that. Let you take a look at a few of these parts here. So this is the Metco kit here. It's got the smaller pulley for the Supercharger, 2.85. Over here we've got this is the pin holding tool. This basically goes on the back side of the shaft and keeps it from rotating while we take the nut off. This is the new smaller pulley. Pretty cool. It's got a hub inside so you can switch them out and you don't have to tear it down every single time. Here's a heavy duty belt made by Gates, very nice piece, and a couple other little odds and ends to help us facilitate that shaft change. We started by disconnecting the battery, then I removed the air intake. He had an aftermarket air intake that took out most of this area with a Canon air filter and a guard. Took all that out of the way. Also removed the upper engine covers up here. Unplugged all this stuff, popped the harness out here. Up here, disconnected the IAC, cover on this side. It's just a lot of stuff to remove. I thought maybe there'd be a way to get around this, but there isn't. So I ended up having to remove the strut tower brace. More or less attaches underneath here, runs all the way across, attaches over there. Alright, so here we have the Metco 2.85-inch pulley, and it says must be completely disassembled before installation, but it doesn't have any pictures, doesn't have any instructions. There's actually no instruction manual with the pulley, so I figured I'd go ahead and show it how it comes apart. First of all, you take out this screw, this part lifts away, and then it's actually really straightforward. Take out each of these Allen screws, this pulley slips off, and it reveals the hub. The hub is a simple piece. Threads on in there. Don't forget, this needs to be threaded all the way on by hand with blue Loctite before being torqued to 50 foot-pounds. I tried to do this without removing the wiper console. Realized it's just a lot easier to go ahead and remove it. It's 2 nuts to remove the wiper arms, 2 bolts hold in the wiper motor and transmission, and the whole thing comes out. Gives us a lot more room to work back here. Well, we got her out. I will tell you it's a little heavier than it looked. Make sure you've got a friend, somebody to help you lift that out of there. It's a lot easier to go ahead and remove the wiper cowl and all that good stuff. Couple things to point out here. The 2 heater hoses in the back do not need to be disconnected. You're sitting there looking at them going, how am I supposed to get to those? You don't need to. They run underneath and hook in up here. They're not part of the Supercharger assembly. So now it's out. We're going to go ahead and carry the Supercharger in, put it on the bench, and start working on the Metco pulley and hub. So this is what the beast looks like out of the car. Got the rails still attached. I looped this so that all the intercooler coolant doesn't run out. And what I'm going to recommend doing is, of course, you take off all these Torx bit heads. Then this part lifts off. Reveals the intercoolers underneath. This boot right here, 3 more Torx bits. It lifts off. You got to do that so you can get to this bolt right here. I'm also going to go ahead and take off the throttle body just because I don't want it getting damaged while we're working on the snout. I went ahead and loosened all these guys up. They're 13 millimeter. There's 16 of them. And it was a little tough getting it to break loose from the main Supercharger body. When it does, you'll notice the gasket there. And if you're careful, you can remove the gasket in one piece. It's got an embedded silicone O-ring. Here's the Supercharger and the drive. Now we've got the snout off and we can work with that. Working on the snout now, and it makes a lot more sense looking at this Metco kit now that we have this plug right here removed. You're going to damage it just a little bit getting it out most likely. I just took a little screwdriver, and drove it in underneath and popped it out. Now you can see the female hex there. And what we're going to do with the Metco kit is that we take this one, slide it in here, and that's going to give us a good bite there. And then on the back side, it's a really nice kit. Turn the snout around here. It's a really nice kit, really nice tool. I like this a lot. This guy right here locks into the dowel pins, and they provide you with a bolt here to bolt it on so that it becomes a one-man job instead of a two-man job. And then at that point, all you have to do is hook onto there with 15/16 and back it off. So I'm going to stop for just a minute and go ahead and do that. We've got the snout shaft lock in place, bolted just a little over finger tight. On this side, we've got Metco's hex drive, and all that's left is to go ahead and back that bad boy off. There it is removed. Took a little bit of effort, but not too bad. Now we have the threaded shaft here to drive the supercharger. Metco says to go ahead and apply blue thread lock on this and spin all the way down by hand before torquing it to 50 foot-pounds. One thing worth noting, the Metco tool here that's used to remove the stock decoupling pulley is 15/16. This one here on the actual hub is 1 inch. It's not that big a deal, but it might save you a trip over to the toolbox. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to torque this to 50 foot-pounds. At this point, the Metco hub has been torqued to 50 foot-pounds. It's got blue thread lock on there. All that remains is to go ahead and bolt the Metco hub. This is the 2.85 inch pulley. Bolt this to the hub and then reinstall the snout on the car. Metco also provides this cover so that it gives you a little bit more of a stock appearance, which is pretty cool. It's got the pulley installed on the hub, and Metco is very clear on this. In addition to the hub being Loctited, you're also supposed to Loctite all 6 of these screws and the little screw on the cover. So we're going to Loctite that one too and then put it in place. Then it'll be time to put the snout back on the supercharger. Alright, now that's done, we can remove the locking tool and go ahead and install the snout. I've got the Metco pulley and hub installed. I've got the snout here, 6 bolts, reusing the gasket because it wasn't torn. And I do like these recessed Allen screws that hold the bearing plate in so I don't have to worry about disturbing the rotors. So all that's left here is to just bolt this down. Then we'll put the top on and go ahead and put the throttle body and the rest of it back together. Alrighty, there she is, all put back together. We've got the lid on. They say make sure to go in a crisscross pattern. That's about all they say there. Got the throttle body back on. It's looking good. And we're getting ready to put it back on the engine now. It looks easy to do. It's actually pretty heavy. But we got her set back in place. What's pretty cool is the intake gaskets are reusable as long as they're not damaged. And they have these little plastic keepers that keep them attached to the bottom of the intake. So you can pop them in place. And then confirm down here that they didn't move. Looks good, nothing pinched. We were careful to pull all of the wiring pigtails for the fuel injectors and all that good stuff up and out of the way. So it was actually fairly easy but very heavy, so definitely have a buddy to help you with this one. They're not exactly easy to come by, so I figured I'd go ahead and include the torque specs in this video. The snout bolts down here, the 13mm 6 bolts that hold the snout onto the supercharger, those torqued 26 foot-pounds. All these little guys right here torqued to 7 foot-pounds. And the actual hex head, 10mm head bolts that hold the supercharger to the cylinder head, those torque in 3 increments. First at 4 pounds, then at 11 pounds, and then at 22 foot-pounds. And those are like a cylinder head or an intake manifold you stagger around. Well, the supercharger is bolted back on, everything is torqued to spec. Passenger side of the engine's all hooked back up, intercooling piping. Haven't refilled the fluid yet. Same coolant as the engine's cooling system, by the way. All this is hooked back up. That green pulley, that green belt is really the one thing that stands out. There's the new pulley. Everything's torqued to spec, hooked back up. And the owner had already installed this cold air intake. It's nice. It's got a conical air filter there underneath. This is the latest part of the Hellcat upgrade. First thing we're going to do today, we siphoned out the overflow, get the fluid level below the thermostat housing here. Just tuck that top radiator hose up. Swapped out the thermostat, put a 180-degree thermostat in it. I'm also going to go ahead and put the 285 pulley back in place while I've got this all torn apart. Obviously the air intake comes out here. This just pinches together and slides right off. Very, very easy. So this is the first step. Alrighty, so fast forward about 2 hours. Now I'm doing the injectors over here. Very, very easy to do. When you take them off though, you might be surprised at how similar they appear to the factory injectors. There's really only one remarkable difference. The Demon injectors have the yellow clip on them, and the Hellcat injectors have the red clip on them. There's a difference of part number 2. So we'll just go ahead and pop in the yellow clip, which is the Demon injectors. Pop them in the underside of the rail. Be sure to put the safety clips back in. Seat them back in there, 2 torque screws, and you're good to go. Also got to plug them in, of course. Alright, today we're going to go ahead and straight pipe this bad boy. Still working on the Hellcat, the one that we put the Metco pulley adapter on there, the Metco hub and the 2.85-inch pulley. So those guys right there, those are coming out today. And all the way in the back, those are going to come out too. So I'm going to let this go ahead and serve as like a before shot. Straight pipe the Hellcat, and that's going to start with the mids up here. We're going to remove these guys and put a piece of straight pipe. We're putting in stainless steel 2 3/4 inch pipe. Now I'm going to cut it on the inner marks. So I've got about 1.5 inch overlap. Now the measurement from the outer marks, that's how long I cut the pipe, and it's 18 inches up front here. Now back for the resonators, we're going to do 12 inches, but up here, these measurements right here, about 18 inches apart. And here are the pieces that we're going to put in place of all the mufflers. These replace the mids. These are cut at 18 inches long and they're bumped on either side so that they slip kind of loosely over the 2 3/4 inch stock pipe. So these are both 18s. These ones replace the resonators in back. These are 12 inch. Now I've only bumped one side because the other side is going to basically butt up against the hanger, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get much overlap in there. I can't tell you how wrong it feels, though, to be cutting the exhaust out of a car with barely 3,000 miles in it, but that's what he wants us to do. And those are the resonators back there. So when I'm done, this is just going to be a straight shot all the way up. And up front, of course, we still have the CAC converters, O2 sensors, and all that good stuff. All right, so we are midway through the straight pipe project, pardon the pun. We've gotten the mid mufflers removed, replaced with 2 3/4 inch stainless straight pipe. So you'll notice the resonators are still in place. And that gigantic Hellcat drive shaft still blows my mind there. But the mids no longer are with us. Just a piece of straight pipe up front. You'll also notice I removed that cross brace that sits right in there because I didn't want to risk nicking it with the Sawzall, 3,000 mile car and all. I'm halfway through the straight pipe project, so it still has resonators, but this is straight pipes in place of the mid mufflers that you can see there on the floor. Alrighty, so we're just about done with the straight pipe deal here. Now, a few things to note. I tried doing this without loosening the whole exhaust. Just loosen these guys right here. Take off the 2 cross supports. Back here, we've got a couple of hangers. On the Hellcat, don't forget to remove this electrical clip. And it's got a harness here that's going to get torn if you don't unhook that. So undo all that, and then this bolt right here is the easiest way. You can barely see it here. This lighting. Loosen this bolt and the corresponding bolt on the other side. It's much easier than taking the actual rubber hangers loose. This is where the resonators used to be. Be interesting to see what she sounds like. There they are. We've removed all 4 mufflers, or rather the 2 primary mufflers or mid mufflers, and both resonators. Let's see how she sounds.